alaikum viewers, welcome back to Zilka's favorite. Here I am with a new lesson of accounting that is about source documents. So let's start without wasting time. What are actually source documents? These are the original documents that contains the details of business transactions. Yes, whatever transactions are going on in the business. Transactions means something coming in or something going out from the business that must be recorded, that can be checked, that can be verified later on. And these things can be only happened in the form of documents. मीन्स किसी किस्म की भी ट्रांजैक्शंस जो की जाती हैं उनका कोई ना कोई प्रूफ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन मौजूद होती है दैट आर एक्चुअली सोर्स डॉक्यूमेंट्स एंड हियर आर सम इम्पॉर्टेंट बेसिक टाइप्स ऑफ सोर्स डॉक्यूमेंट्स सो फर्स्ट वी हैव परचेज ऑर्डर what is purchase order it is sent to the supplier by the customer to request to supply required goods. Yes, as the name mentioned, purchase order means it is something that is related to purchasing. So purchasing should be done by the customer. Customer, when the customer is in the requirement of something, he used to order to the supplier, to the seller about the about his requirements. For example, if I need some markers, I will order to the supplier, to the stationery shop, or to the stationery supplier that I require one box of marker, three boxes of marker in this color, and I will send him the purchase order. It is kind of a slip, and over there, the name of the company and the requirement will be mentioned with the number of quantities. For example, मुझे 10 बॉक्सेस चाहिए अपनी कंपनी के लिए, 50 चाहिए, 100 चाहिए, वट एवर, ये परचेज स्लिप में मैंशनड होगा कंपनी के नेम के साथ और आइटम का डिस्क्रिप्शन कि वो आइटम है क्या, साइज़ क्या है, कलर क्या है और कितनी क्वांटिटी है, विद द स्टैम्प एंड सिग्नेचर, everything. So this is purchase order. You can better understand from this image purchase order process. The first process is to complete the purchase order. Customer identifies the need. Of course, first of all, the customer will understand what is my requirement right now. Second, customer creates purchase order. Yes, according to his requirement, his need, he will create the purchase order. Means he will write, he will make the purchase order slip. Third, customer sends purchase order. The purchase order which is ready now, it will be sent by the customer to the supplier, means to the seller, to the like the example in the example of markers, I can say to the stationery supplier, right? Next, supplier receives purchase order. Now that slip of purchase order will be with the supplier, with the seller. Supplier prepares goods according to my order, according to the order of the company. The supplier or the seller will prepare the order, prepare the goods, prepare the items which are mentioned in the order. Supplier dispatches goods. Dispatches means he will send the goods to the purchaser. He will send the items to the customer, right? So this is the purchase order. The purchase order slip will remain, the copy of the purchase order slip will remain in the books, in the documentation of the company, in the file. That will be like a proof or like the documentation of the company to maintain their accounts, right? Next, the second important source document is sales order. It is generated by the supplier and sent to the customer. It will be cross checked by the customer with the purchase order. Now, just you have to focus little bit. Purchase order was generated by the customer to tell about its requirement. The sales order is created or generated by the supplier. Sales order is the document or slip that is made by the supplier, and he will send it to the customer that this is your order, these are the goods, these are your required items, and I am sending you the slip of whatever is sent to you. Now, what the customer will do, he will receive his order with the sales order slip, and the customer will match that slip with his purchase order slip to tally to see is it the same as I ordered before. ओके सो होता ये है जैसे मैंने अपनी कंपनी के लिए 50 बॉक्सेस का ऑर्डर कर दिया मार्कर. अब उसमें कुछ रेड, कुछ ब्लैक, कुछ ग्रीन, देयर आर डिफरेंट कलर्स, राइट. मैंने जब परचेज ऑर्डर स्लिप सेंड कर दी सप्लायर को, सप्लायर ने अकॉर्डिंग टू माई नीड्स मेरे जो गुड्स हैं उसने मुझे ऑर्डर मेरा सेंड कर दिया एक सेल्स ऑर्डर स्लिप के साथ. उस स्लिप में सारी डिटेल्स मेंशन्ड होंगी कि ये आपके गिवन ऑर्डर थे. वो ऑर्डर उसमें सब कुछ लिखा होगा कि ये डिस्क्रिप्शन है जो हम चीज़ें आपको सेंड कर रहे हैं. अब जो कस्टमर है वो उस सेल्स ऑर्डर को टैली करेगा अपने परचेज ऑर्डर के साथ वेरीफाई करने के लिए क्या वाकई मैंने सेम यही ऑर्डर दिया था, कोई चीज़ डिफरेंट तो नहीं है, कोई चीज़ मिसिंग तो नहीं है. सो दिस इज़ द प्रोसेस. सो सेल्स ऑर्डर स्लिप will be sent to the customer, and one of the copy will be remained with the supplier also in the books of the supplier for future accounting process, right. Now look over here, sales order confirmation process. For better understanding, just look at the picture. Order sent to the customer. What the supplier will do, he will send the order to the customer, then cross check with purchase order. Now what the customer will do, customer verify his order by cross checking it with the purchase order slip. Last, order confirmation. And then customer, after verification, the customer will verify that he has got his order, he has approved his order, right. Now the third source document is receipt. The third one is receipt. It is issued by the supplier confirming the payment received from the customer. Very simple. Of course, when the customer will receive the order, he will send the payment. He will give the payment, right. He can give the payment in different ways. It can be cash, it can be check. He will send the payment of the goods he received. Of course, after getting the payment, what will be the proof that he has paid? Supplier will give him the receipt, the bill of that payment he will give to as a proof that he has paid now. Now there is no more obligation. There are no dues. The payment is clear, right? For this verification, for this proof, the supplier will give the receipt to the customer to keep in both books for the documentation to complete accounting process, right. So payment confirmation process, how it will happen, the payment will made by the customer. The customer will pay to the supplier for the orders he has received. Payment received by the supplier. Now that payment will be received by the seller or by the supplier. Then receipt issued by the supplier. Then he will send or he will give the receipt, the bill to the customer as a proof that he has paid the dues, or he has paid for the goods that he has received. Next is invoice. What is invoice? There are two types of invoices. The first is purchase invoice and the second is sales invoice. What is purchase invoice actually? It is issued by the supplier as a request for payment. Invoices are issued at the time of credit sales. Yes. In case of receipt, it was cash sale. The supplier or the seller was selling his good in cash. There was no credit. कैश पेमेंट हुई थी, कोई उधार नहीं था. बट समटाइम्स क्या होता है, गुड्स सेल की जाती हैं क्रेडिट पर, मींस पेमेंट बाद में की जाएगी. कुछ पेमेंट्स की डेट सेटल होती हैं, उस पर पेमेंट की जाएगी. दैट इज कॉल्ड क्रेडिट सेल. इन केस ऑफ क्रेडिट सेल, जो सप्लायर होता है, द सप्लायर, he will issue purchase invoice. It is also kind of slip. On that purchase slip, it will be mentioned that this much amount for the purchase of this product is due. This is leftover amount that must be paid on given date. परचेज इनवॉइस पर डिटेल मेंशन होती है कि कौन से प्रोडक्ट परचेज किए गए, उसका टोटल अमाउंट क्या है और ये अमाउंट ड्यू है और इस अमाउंट को कौन सी डेट तक पे करना है. दैट इज फॉर द क्रेडिट सेल्स. देन of course customer will receive the purchase order slip, the purchase invoice, sorry. Customer will receive the purchase invoice. What will happen then? The second is sales invoice. It is received by the customer as a request for payment from the supplier. This purchase slip, when it will go to the customer, it is now sales invoice. The invoice that will be received by the customer, it is sales invoice. Over there, it is mentioned to the customer that this much payment is due and you have to pay it according to the agreement, according to the contract. You have to pay it at this date according to their dealing, right? So there are two invoices, purchase invoice and sales invoice. Hope the difference between them is clear. The next is check counter foil. Yes, check is sent by the customer to the supplier to clear outstanding debts. The leftover, okay, just till here. As I told you in the beginning, the payment for any purchase can be done by cash or by the check, bank check, right? What is check now? As the company has their account in the bank, money is over there, they want to pay to the supplier through the bank. So what they will do, they will issue the check. Over the check, it will be mentioned that from my account, this much amount should be paid to this company with the signature, right? Then the bank will issue that amount to the supplier when they will give the check over there. So very simple. चेक का प्रोसेस क्या होता है? कस्टमर चेक देगा, चेक पर मेंशन होगा कि मेरे बैंक में जो मेरा अकाउंट है उसमें से इस कंपनी को इतने पैसे पे कर दिए जाएं. ये चेक दे दिया जाएगा सप्लायर टू द सेलर. सप्लायर ये वाला चेक जब बैंक में जाकर देगा, बैंक उसको वेरीफाई करेगा और कस्टमर या परचेजर के अकाउंट से उतने पैसे सप्लायर को दे दिए जाएंगे. सो दिस इज द पेमेंट मोड ऑफ पेमेंट थ्रू द चेक और थ्रू द बैंक, राइट? The leftover part, now the thing is that what is counterfoil? The leftover part of the check in the checkbook, leftover part of the check in the checkbook is called a counterfoil. Now the question is that what is counterfoil? Just focus over here. The leftover part of the check in the checkbook is called counterfoil. Yes, you all have seen the check, right? It's very common. So when we issue the check from our checkbook, even when we cut it from the checkbook, there is a little small part left over there. On that small part, also we will mention the detail that to whom this check is issued and what is the amount and what is the date. This part will remain with the company, with the customer. Of course, the check he has issued to the supplier. So, what is left with him? With him, this small part is left. This part of the check is called counterfoil, and basically, this is the source document. Check counterfoil is the source document. चेक तो हमने ऑलरेडी कस्टम सप्लायर को दे दिया, हमारे पास क्या प्रूफ है? ये जो काउंटर फॉयल एक छोटा सा पार्ट चेक का रह जाता है चेकबुक में, जिसमें सारी डिटेल्स मेंशन्ड होती हैं, वो रह जाता है हमारे पास प्रूफ. एंड दिस इज कॉल्ड चेक काउंटर फॉयल, राइट, विच इज कीप टू रिकॉर्ड द पेमेंट. इट इज केप्ट एज डॉक्यूमेंटेशन फॉर द accounting process. So check payment process. First thing, customer issues check, right? The check is issued by the customer for the payment. Check sent to the supplier. That check will be sent to the supplier for the payment. Supplier receives a check. The supplier will get the check. He will receive the check from the customer. Then what he will do? He will submit it to the bank and then he will get his payment. Payment recorded on counterfoil. When the customer will issue the check, he will also record it on the counterfoil, means on the leftover part of the check for documentation process. Next, it's a debit note. So what is debit note? It is issued by the customer to the supplier indicating that the goods are returned to the supplier. So supplier's account is debited. Now listen, when the company is purchasing goods from the supplier, sometimes it happened that they have to return some goods back. They have to return some products back. Maybe there is any damaged piece, or maybe there is something with the wrong color, wrong size, maybe there is something wrong according to the order, right? In this case, the customer will return the goods, return the products to the supplier. At that time, what the customer will do, he will return the product with the debit note. Over the debit note, it will be mentioned that we are returning this product to you. So this should be deducted from our bill. This should be mentioned in your accounting books. As you have seen, supplier account is debited. So still you don't know about debit credit books. So just leave it. But remember, in the accounting books, in the bookkeeping books, the supplier will mention that this product is returned, right? So just focus here, debit note process. क्या प्रोसेस होता है इसका? कस्टमर रिटर्न्स गुड्स. कस्टमर ने गुड्स कुछ रिटर्न कर दी सेलर को. मे बी कुछ डैमेज था, साइज ठीक नहीं था, कलर ठीक नहीं था, वॉट एवर, उसने कुछ आइटम्स वापस भेजी हैं सप्लायर को विद द डेबिट नोट, एक स्लिप के साथ, जो कि डेबिट नोट होता है. कस्टमर इशूज द डेबिट नोट. उसने उसके लिए डेबिट नोट इशू किया जिसके ऊपर मेंशन्ड होता है We can check from here. Debit note. The customer creates a debit note to document the return. कस्टमर ने किस लिए डेबिट नोट को क्रिएट किया? ताकि उस पे सब डिटेल्स मेंशन होती हैं कि ये प्रोडक्ट क्यों रिटर्न किया जा रहा है, राइट, और कौन सा प्रोडक्ट रिटर्न किया जा रहा है, रिकॉर्ड के लिए. सप्लायर रिसीव्स द डेबिट नोट. ऑफ कोर्स नाउ द सप्लायर विल receive the goods and also the debit note. Supplier debits account और supplier अपने अकाउंट में मेंशन कर देगा कि हाँ ये गुड्स हमें इस कंपनी से वापस आ गई हैं, ताकि वो उसके अमाउंट को अपने अकाउंट में एडजस्ट कर सके. डेबिट मीन्स अपने अकाउंट को एडजस्ट कर सके अकॉर्डिंग टू द डेबिट नोट, राइट. Opposite to this, there is another note, that is credit note. Now, what is credit note? It is issued by the supplier. Remember, debit note was issued by the customer with the returned goods, right? Now, this is credit note. It is issued by the supplier to the customer, indicating that goods returned have been accepted. So, customer's account is credited. Right. When the supplier will receive the goods back, receive the returned goods from the customer, and he will verify it, then he will issue the credit note to the customer. Over there it will be mentioned that we have got the returned goods, right, and we have credited your account, means we have deducted it, subtracted it from your balance amount, from your credit amount, right. So the process is that supplier issues credit note. supplier issue करता है credit note कब? जब उसको returned goods मिल जाती हैं कस्टमर से. उस पर मेंशन होता है कस्टमर रिसीव्स द क्रेडिट नोट. कस्टमर उस नोट को रिसीव करेगा, उसके ऊपर ये मेंशन होगा कि जो गुड्स आपने रिटर्न की थी वो हमें मिल गई हैं, वेरीफाई हो गई हैं. सो आफ्टर दैट द कस्टमर्स अकाउंट क्रेडिटेड. जो सप्लायर है वो कस्टमर के अकाउंट को क्रेडिट कर देगा, मीन्स उसका अमाउंट एडजस्ट कर देगा कि आपका पहले जो इतना अमाउंट आपके क्रेडिट अमाउंट जितना था, मीन्स जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग अमाउंट था, मीन्स जो अमाउंट अभी आपने पे करना था उसमें से इतना अमाउंट माइनस कर दिया गया है, सब्ट्रैक्ट कर दिया गया है टू सेटल द अकाउंट, राइट. सो आफ्टर डेबिट नोट एंड क्रेडिट नोट, the last important source document is the pay slip. It's very easy to understand, as the word shows. Pay means like the salary you are getting. It is sent by the employer to the employee for the confirmation of the salary deposited in his account by the end of the month, by the end of the period. It's weekly salary, weekly wages we can say, or it's monthly salary. End of the period, when it's the time to get the salary, the employer, means the owner of the company, will send the salary to the employee, right? And for that confirmation, he will issue the pay slip. It's also a slip. He will issue the pay slip. Over there it will be mentioned that this much salary is issued to this person of this month. Now he can collect his salary from the bank. This is the confirmation that his salary has been deposited into his account. He can take it from the bank by showing this pay slip, right? So this is the process. What is a pay slip? It is sent by the employer to the employee to confirm the salary deposited in the account. So these all were the source documents. There are also other source documents, but these are the basic important source documents that are internationally, globally using over the world to maintain the accounting process. And just you all have to note down these important definitions with the examples and read them well to understand the lesson, right? And just have a nice day. Next time I will be there with the next lesson. Till then, take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.